Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make Goddess Ma Kali out of air dry clay. I hope you enjoyed the video. We're going to start by shaping a palm-sized ball of clay for a rough base of the skull. We're going to flatten the bottom slightly so it sits firmly on the wooden base. And then either using your fingers or a sculpting tool, we're going to press two deep oval shapes for the eye sockets and then a small inverted triangle for the nose cavity. And then using a slanted tool, we're going to draw a horizontal line for the mouth opening and then vertical lines for the teeth. We're then going to roll out a line of clay for the portion of bone containing the tooth sockets on the jawbones. I used a reference image of a skull on my laptop next to me just so that I could add in clay on areas of the skull where needed, just so that I could make the skull look as realistic as possible. So feel free to add clay where needed to make your skull look as realistic as possible. And then I'm just smoothing in the back of the skull as well and making sure that all the proportions are correct. I'm then going to roll some clay for the two legs and then create this seated position and making sure that it's stable by adding in extra clay to the back. And then working on the torso and creating a space for the waist and the hips and making the top of the torso a bit wider so that we can shape the chest as well. And then I'm adding a little bit of clay for the neck and a flat piece of clay for the cloth on top of the legs as well, which we will be carving in the folds and details on later. And then for the middle, a little area for the pleats, which we will then carve in later as well, and adding in a little line of clay for the lower belly portion as well, just so that the torso has a little bit of shape to it. And then either using the end of a paintbrush or the end of a pen, we're going to just indent a little hole for the belly button. Using our slanted blade, we're going to then draw in those folds for the cloth on our Goddess Kali. And then we can use a damp brush to smooth those lines as well. Roll a small ball of clay for the head. This is the hardest piece because we have to make sure the expressions for our Goddess Ma Kali are as accurate and depictive as possible. So one of the key traits to Goddess Ma Kali is her protruding tongue. So we're going to create that hole for the mouth, either using a pointed tool or a paintbrush. Roll out a little bit of clay for the tongue. We're going to enter that into the hole in the mouth. Another key expression for Goddess Ma Kali is her very expressive and wide eyes as well. So I actually did a little bit of trial and error with this face, just to make sure that it looked right. So you see me trying two different methods for making the eyes, and I ended up going with the second method, which you'll see a bit later, where I use a pointed tool to kind of carve the eyes into the clay rather than adding on clay for the eyes. And then we're going to roll out some strips of clay for her hair. I want the hair to look quite flowy and free, nothing too neat and tidy. And yeah, this is where you see me kind of restructuring the face because I wasn't very happy with it. So I'm kind of recreating that space for the eye socket And then I'm going to go in with my pointed tool to create the inner and outer corner of the eyes, and then using a pointed tool I'm going to then draw in the iris and then sculpt the upper eyelid and create that expressive look in her eyes. And then we're going to go ahead and add some more pieces of rolled clay to frame her face as well. And then I'm adding a bit of clay to accentuate her brow arch as well, and also just using that bladed tool to differentiate the upper eyelid from that brow arch so that you can see the two differently. So I'm just blending that in as well with a damp brush so that we can smoothen the texture of the skin so it's nice and neat. And then going ahead with those framing pieces for the face, which gives the face a bit more shape, and then also helps us structure the rest of the flowing pieces for our goddess Ma Kali. And then from here it's just adding little details onto the face and making it all a little bit neater. We're then going to go in with the arms. There are 4 arms that we're going to be creating here. These are the first 2 front arms, and then we're going to secure the other 2 onto the back just because it's easier to secure those isolated pieces of clay if we can add some extra bit of clay to the back of the piece to secure it all in. And we can add in the 3 clenched fists and upward facing palm. Then adding in a short chained necklace, and then also I'll be adding in a garland of small skulls around her neck. So we're just going in with these palms and clenched fists, and then I'm going in with the garland of skulls around her neck. So I'm adding in small balls of clay for each of the skulls, and I'm just dotting them around the garland, which I'll then be using the end of a paintbrush and that bladed tool to draw in the details of the skull. Then for the crown, we are adding in some decorations and ornamentations for it. Feel free to decorate the crown as you please. This is how I chose to decorate mine. And then if you're adding in any new pieces of clay, just make sure that you're using slip to secure it in so that it doesn't break off or fall apart. Here I am drawing in the details for the small skulls around the garland. Then we're going to be creating a sword, a trident and a severed head, as well as a bowl or skull cup which is catching the blood from the severed head. So then we're going to add these ornaments onto the end of the arms. And then I'm going ahead and just sanding the whole piece down once it's dried, just so everything looks nice and smooth and neat. Traditionally, Goddess Ma Kali is painted with deep blue or black skin and a red tongue. I've chosen to go for black skin for this piece, and then I've gone ahead with the red tongue and also the red for the bottom of the severed head as well as the bowl catching the blood as well. But this is what my Goddess Ma Kali looks like. I hope you enjoyed the video, and check my page for more videos. Have a lovely day.